The massive Zephyrian warship blocked out the sun as it hung over the peaceful city of Alteria Prime. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the beautiful crystal towers below through cold, unblinking eyes. His scaled hands gripped the railing as he smiled with sharp teeth. "Begin the bombardment," he commanded in his harsh voice. Green energy beams shot down from the ship's weapons. The first blast hit the Grand Library, a tower that had stood for 1,000 years. Books and knowledge from across the galaxy turned to ash in seconds. The next beam struck the medical center, where alien doctors worked together to heal the sick. The streets below the Alterian people ran in panic. They had never seen war before. Their kind had spent centuries studying art, music, and science. They built beautiful cities filled with gardens and schools. They had no weapons, no armies, no idea how to fight back against the terror from above. Elder Quentara stumbled through the burning streets. His crystal-like skin cracked from the heat. Around him, mothers carried crying children, while fathers tried to shield their families from falling debris. The Alterians had always believed that peace and knowledge could solve any problem. Now they learned how wrong they were. "Why are they doing this to us?" a young Alterian asked, tears streaming down her face. The elder had no answer. The Zephyrian Empire conquered worlds not for resources or land, but simply because they could. They spread fear across the galaxy like a disease, and every species that heard their name learned to hide. High above the planet, more Zephyrian ships arrived. Each one was the size of a mountain, covered in weapons and armor. Their hulls were black as space itself, decorated with the skull-like symbol of the Empire. Inside each ship, thousands of Zephyrian warriors prepared for ground invasion. Admiral Vextar opened a communication channel to the planet below. His voice boomed from speakers across the burning city. "People of Alteria Prime, you will surrender now or watch your world burn. Your coalition is weak. Your allies have abandoned you. No one in this galaxy dares stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire." In the underground shelters, Alterian leaders huddled around their communication devices. They had sent distress signals to every known civilization, begging for help. The responses were always the same: silence. Every species in the galaxy had either been conquered by the Zephyrians or learned to hide from them. The Crystalline Confederation had fallen in just 3 days. The proud warrior clans of Vega had lasted only a week. The ancient sage worlds, with all their wisdom and technology, had been reduced to ash in a matter of hours. World after world had fallen to the Empire's unstoppable advance. "Sir?" Communications. Officer Jextor approached Admiral Vextar on the bridge. "We have detected several escape ships trying to leave the planet." "Destroy them all," Vextar replied without emotion. "No one leaves. Make sure the other worlds hear about this. Fear is our greatest weapon." The Zephyrian fighters swooped down like metal birds of prey. Their energy cannons lit up the sky as they hunted down the fleeing transport ships. Each explosion sent a message to watching civilizations. This is what happens when you oppose the Empire. In the deepest shelter beneath Alteria Prime, Elder Quantara gathered the remaining leaders of the coalition. Their once proud alliance of peaceful worlds now consisted of a handful of survivors hiding underground. "The reports from our other worlds are the same," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "New Alteria is under siege. The research stations on Kepler 7 have gone. Silent, our fleets. What few ships we had, they're all gone." Around the table, representatives from a dozen species bowed their heads in defeat. The bird-like Avirans, the gentle plant-based Verdians, the wise turtle-like Chelonians, all of them faced the same fate. Their civilizations, built over thousands of years, would be wiped out in days. Above ground, the bombardment continued. The Zephyrians were in no hurry. They enjoyed watching their victims suffer. Each blast from their weapons was carefully aimed to cause maximum terror. They destroyed hospitals before military bases, schools before weapons factories. They wanted to break their enemies' spirits before crushing their bodies. "Admiral," another officer reported, "long-range sensors show no sign of any rescue fleets. The galaxy remains silent." Vextar nodded with satisfaction. This was how it always went. The Empire had grown so powerful that other species no longer even tried to resist. They had learned that helping others only brought destruction to themselves. On 100 different worlds, alien leaders watched the news feeds from Alteria Prime. They saw the burning cities, the fleeing refugees, the overwhelming power of the Zephyrian fleet. And they turned away, grateful that it was not their turn. The aquatic kingdoms sealed their underwater cities. The silicon-based miners retreated deeper into their asteroid homes. The energy beings of the outer rim dimmed their lights and hoped to remain invisible. Every civilization had the same thought: better to hide and survive than to fight and die. As night fell over Alteria Prime, the Zephyrian ships still hung in the sky like metal storm clouds. Their weapons had gone quiet for now, but everyone knew the bombardment would continue at dawn. The Empire was patient. They would take their time destroying this world, making sure the galaxy watched every moment. In the darkness, Elder Quantara looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there he hoped someone would hear their cries for help. But deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The galaxy had learned to accept the Empire's rule. No one was coming to save them. The Age of Terror would continue, and the Alterians were just the latest victims in a war that had no end. Captain Lee Soo-jin floated silently in the command chair of the UES Indomitable, watching the destruction of Alteria Prime on her main screen. The human warship hung at the edge of the solar system, hidden among the ice and rock of the outer asteroid belt. Her crew of 200 had been observing the Zephyrian attack for 3 days now. "Captain," Communications Officer Park Min-ho called softly from his station. "We're still receiving those Alterian distress signals. They're getting weaker." Soo-jin nodded but said nothing. Her dark eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet. 200 massive warships surrounded the planet, like hungry wolves. Each one was 10 times larger than her ship. The numbers were impossible. Lieutenant Commander Kim Da-eun stepped up beside the captain's chair. Her hand rested on the weapons console, fingers drumming nervously. "Earth commands." "Orders were clear, Captain. Observe and report. Don't engage." "I know the orders," Soo-jin replied quietly. On the screen, another Alterian transport ship exploded as Zephyrian fighters chased it down. Inside that ship had been families trying to escape. Children who would never see another sunrise. Soo-jin's jaw tightened. Chief Engineer Han So-young looked up from her station in the back of the bridge. "Captain, the Alterians have been broadcasting on all frequencies for 72 hours. Every species in the galaxy can hear them begging for help." "And?" Soo-jin asked. "No one's coming. The entire galaxy is just watching them die." The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Every member of the crew had seen the intelligence reports. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered half the known galaxy. Species after species had fallen to their endless fleets. Those who survived had learned to hide. Dr. Yoon-ji-woo entered the bay. Bridge from the medical bay. Her face was pale as she approached the captain. "I've been monitoring the medical emergency channels from the planet. The civilian casualties are..." "Captain, they're targeting hospitals and schools first." Soo-jin closed her eyes. In her mind, she could hear her grandfather's voice telling stories about the old wars on Earth, about how good people sometimes had to make hard choices, about how freedom was never free. "Lieutenant Choi," she called to the helmsman. "How long?" "To reach the planet at full burn." Young Lieutenant Choi Woo-jin looked surprised. "At maximum speed, 12 minutes, Captain. But the radiation from our engines would give us away in 30 seconds. "They'll see us coming," Kim Da-eun warned. 200 ships against one. It's suicide." Soo-jin stood up from her chair and walked to the forward viewport. Outside, she could see the distant glow of Alteria Prime's burning atmosphere. Somewhere down there, people were dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. "Park," she said without turning around, "open a channel to Earth Command." "Channel open, Captain." "Admiral Zhang, this is Captain Lee Soo-jin aboard the Indomitable. I'm requesting permission to engage the Zephyrian fleet." The response came. Back in seconds, Admiral Zhang's voice was firm but understanding. "Permission denied, Captain. You have your orders. One ship cannot make a difference against their entire fleet." "With respect, sir, sometimes one ship is all it takes." There was a long pause. When Zhang spoke again, his voice was softer. Sujin, I know what you're thinking, but your crew has families back home. Don't throw their lives away. What about the families down there, sir? What about the children who are dying right now? Another pause. The decision is yours, Captain. But if you do this, you're on your own. Earth cannot officially support your actions. Understood, sir. Indomitable out. Sujin turned back to her crew. Every face was looking at her, waiting. These were good people, scientists and engineers and warriors who had volunteered to explore the dangerous outer rim of the galaxy. They had families and dreams and futures ahead of them. I won't order any of you to follow me into this fight, she said slowly. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the outer stations. No shame in that choice. Nobody moved. Kim Da-un was the first to speak. Where you go, we go, Captain. Engineer Han So-young nodded. My parents didn't raise me to stand by and watch innocent people get murdered. One by one, every crew member on the bridge voiced their agreement. These were humans, Sujin realized. Her people might be new to the galactic community, but they still remembered what it meant to stand up to bullies. All right then, she said, settling back into her command chair. Park, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. All frequencies. Channel. Open, Captain. Sujin took a deep breath. Across the solar system, 200 alien warships would soon hear her voice. Behind them, an entire galaxy would listen to see if anyone still had the courage to fight. This is Captain Lee Sujin of the United Earth ship Indomitable. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from this system and release the civilian population. This is your only warning. The channel went silent. Then from the Zephyrian flagship came the sound of harsh laughter. Admiral Vextar's voice echoed through space. One small ship dares to threaten the Empire? You humans must be mad. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly. Sujin smiled coldly. We'll see about that. She looked at her crew, these brave souls who had chosen to stand with her against impossible odds. Take us in, Lieutenant Choi. Time to show the galaxy what humans can do. The Indomitable looked like a tiny metal insect against the massive Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Vextar stood on his flagship's bridge, staring at the human ship through the main viewer. He had seen many foolish acts in his long military career, but this was beyond madness. How big is that ship? He asked his tactical officer. 300 meters long, Admiral. Our smallest destroyer is twice that size. Vextar's scaled lips curled into a cruel smile. And they think they can fight us with that toy? Humans must be the stupidest species in the galaxy. Around him his bridge crew laughed. The Zephyrian Empire had crushed civilizations with fleets of thousands of ships. One human vessel was nothing more than target practice. Shall we destroy them quickly, Admiral? Asked his weapons officer. No, Vextar replied, his yellow eyes gleaming. Let's play with them first. Show the galaxy what happens to those who dare challenge us. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Sujin watched the Zephyrian formations spread out around them. The enemy ships moved slowly, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Their massive hulls bristled with energy weapons and missile launchers. They're taking their time, observed Lieutenant Commander Kim Da-un. They want to make a show of this. Good, Sujin said calmly. Let them underestimate us. She turned to her helmsman. Choi, are you ready? Lieutenant Choi Woo-jin's hands gripped the flight controls. All systems green, Captain. Fusion drives at full power. Weapons status? Kim Da-un checked her console. Railguns loaded and charged. Missile tubes ready. Point defense systems online. The first Zephyrian dreadnought, a massive ship called... The Death Shadow moved closer. Its captain opened a communication channel, his voice booming across space. Tiny human ship, this is your last chance. Surrender now and we will grant you a warrior's death. Captain Sujin stood up from her chair. This is my answer. She nodded to Kim Da-un, who pressed the firing button. The Indomitable's main railgun roared to life, sending a tungsten rod racing through space at incredible speed. The projectile was only a meter long, but it moved at 20% of light speed. The Zephyrians watched in amazement as the small metal rod punched straight through. Their energy shields like they were made of paper. The tungsten penetrator smashed into the Death Shadow's main reactor, and the massive ship exploded in a ball of white fire. Impossible, Vextar screamed. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields. His tactical officer's voice shook with fear. "Admiral, that wasn't an energy weapon. It was a solid projectile moving at relativistic speed." "What does that mean?" "It means their weapons ignore our defenses completely." The entire Zephyrian fleet paused in confusion. For 3 centuries, space combat had been about energy shields and plasma weapons. No one used kinetic projectiles anymore. They were too slow, too primitive. But the humans had somehow made them deadly fast. Captain Sujin's voice came over the communication channel. "You wanted to play games, Admiral. Let's play." The Indomitable suddenly accelerated at impossible speed. Its fusion drives burned like a small star. As the ship darted between the massive Zephyrian vessels, the enemy gunners tried to track the tiny human ship, but it moved too fast and changed direction too quickly. "How are they pulling those maneuvers?" Vextar demanded. "Our computers show they should be pulling 50 gravities. The crew should be dead." What the Zephyrians didn't know was that human technology had taken a different path. While alien races focused on bigger ships and stronger shields, humans had perfected inertial dampening and artificial gravity. The crew of the Indomitable felt only a gentle push as their ship twisted through space like a fighter plane. Another Zephyrian ship exploded as a railgun shot tore through its hull. Then another. The Indomitable's weapons fired with deadly accuracy, each shot carefully aimed at critical systems. The human ship didn't waste ammunition trying to destroy entire vessels. Instead, it targeted engines, weapons, and command centers. "They're not trying to kill us," realized Vextar's tactical officer. "They're disabling our ships." "What kind of warriors spare their enemies?" Vextar snarled. Lieutenant Choi spun the Indomitable through a barrel roll that brought them directly under a Zephyrian cruiser. Kim Da-un fired the dorsal guns, sending tungsten rods through the enemy ship's weapon batteries. The cruiser's guns went silent, leaving it helpless but alive. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The massive Zephyrian ships lumbered through space like ancient battleships, while the tiny human vessel danced between them like a hummingbird. Every few seconds, another enemy ship went dark as precise shots knocked out its vital systems. "We're down to 60% of our fleet," reported Vexitar's tactical officer. "And they haven't taken any damage at all." The Admiral's hands shook with rage and fear. "This is impossible. No single ship can defeat an entire fleet." But on his viewer, he watched the Indomitable continue its deadly dance. The human ship moved with perfect grace, its weapons finding every weak spot in Zephyrian armor. The crew worked together like a symphony, each person knowing exactly what to do. After 3 hours of one-sided combat, only a dozen Zephyrian ships remained operational. The rest floated helplessly in space, their crews alive but their ships crippled. Captain Sujin's voice echoed across the battlefield. "Admiral Vextar, do you surrender?" The proud Zephyrian commander looked around his damaged bridge. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled by a single human ship. Everything he had believed about warfare, about the Empire's invincibility, lay in ruins around him. We surrender," he whispered. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, terror of the stars, had been defeated by one small human warship. News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, alien species gathered around their communication devices, hardly believing what they heard. The mighty Zephyrian fleet, terror of the stars for 3 centuries, had been defeated by a single human ship. Captain Lee Sujin stood in the main hall of the Alterian Council building, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. The crystal walls had been cracked by the bombardment, but the Alterians had quickly repaired them. Hope, it seemed, was a powerful rebuilding tool. Elder Quantara stepped forward, his crystal-like form still bearing scars from the battle. "Captain, Sujin, our people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But we must ask, how did you do it? How did one ship defeat an entire fleet?" Behind the captain, her senior officers stood quietly. Lieutenant Commander Kim Da-un, Chief Engineer Han So-young, and Communications Officer Park Min-ho had become heroes across the galaxy overnight. But they looked uncomfortable with all the attention, We didn't win because we were stronger, Sujin explained simply. We won because we fought differently. A tall, bird-like Avaran delegate raised one feathered arm. But your ship is so small. Your weapons seemed primitive compared to their energy cannons. Kim Da-yun stepped forward. That's exactly why we won. Everyone in the galaxy has been fighting. The same way for centuries. Energy shields, plasma weapons, massive ships. You all copied each other's technology. Humans took a different path, added engineer Han So-young. While you built bigger ships, we built faster ones. While you made stronger shields, we made weapons that ignore shields completely. Dr. Yoon Ji-woo joined the group from where she had been treating wounded Alterians. But technology alone didn't win this battle. The real difference was something else. What do you mean? Asked a reptilian delegate from the Saurian Republic. Captain Sujin looked around the room at all the different species. Some were tall and thin, others short and round. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few seemed to be made of living rock. But in their eyes, she saw the same thing. They were all tired of being afraid. We fought for something worth dying. For, she said quietly, the Zephyrians fought for conquest, for power, for the right to make others afraid. We fought for freedom. But surely you were afraid too, said Elder Quantara. You knew the odds. 200 ships against one. Park. Minho spoke up for the first time. Of course we were afraid. Fear is normal. But being afraid and being a coward are different things. My grandfather told me stories about Earth's old wars, Sujin continued. He said that bullies always seem strong until someone stands up to them. The Zephyrian Empire looked powerful, because everyone was too scared to fight back. Around the room, alien delegates began to murmur to each other. For generations, their species had accepted Zephyrian rule because resistance seemed hopeless. Now they were learning that the Empire's strength had been built on fear, not true power. A small, furry creature from the mining guild stepped forward. Captain, we have received reports from across the galaxy. After news of your victory spread, rebellions have started on 17 worlds. The people are no longer afraid. That's exactly what we hoped would happen, Sujin replied. Humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. Kim Da-yun activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Zephyrian-controlled worlds, while green dots showed planets that had declared independence in the past week. Look at this, she said. The Empire's control is crumbling, not because of our weapons, but because people finally believe they can fight back. Dr. Yoon Ji-woo had been working with alien medical teams for days now. I've learned something interesting while treating the wounded. Every species here has their own strengths. The Alterians are brilliant scientists. The Avirans are amazing pilots. The Saurians are natural engineers. What's your point? Asked the Saurian delegate. Separately, you were all weak against the Empire, but together you could be unstoppable. Engineer Han So-young nodded enthusiastically. Humans aren't the strongest or smartest species in the galaxy. But we learned something important on Earth. Cooperation is more powerful than competition. Captain Sujin walked to the center of the room. The Zephyrian Empire succeeded because they divided you. They made each species afraid to help the others. They made you compete instead of cooperate. What are you suggesting? Elder Quantara asked. Form an alliance, not with humans as leaders, but as equals. Share your knowledge, your strengths, your resources. The Empire can defeat any single species, but they can't defeat all of you working together. The room fell silent as delegates considered her words. For centuries, galactic politics had been about survival and hiding. The idea of actually fighting back seemed impossible. A young Alterian scientist stepped forward. Captain, if we do this, if we form this alliance, will humanity help us? Sojin smiled. The Indomitable was just the first ship. Earth has been building a fleet while watching the galaxy burn. We've been waiting for the right moment to act. And now? Asked the Avaran delegate. Now the galaxy knows that bullies can be beaten. Now people are ready to stand up and fight for their freedom. Now is the right moment. Park Min-ho received a message on his communication device. He looked up with excitement. Captain, I'm getting reports from the Outer Rim. 3 more human ships have just arrived in neighboring systems, and they're not alone. They're escorting ships from free human colonies. Around the room, alien faces lit up with something they hadn't felt in generations. Hope. The age of fear was ending. The age of freedom was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Alteria Prime, Captain Lee Soo-jin stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the massive space platform. The station hung in neutral space, built by volunteers from 47 different species working together. Its gleaming white hull reflected the light of 3 nearby stars. Through the transparent walls, she could see the UES Seoul, commanded by her former weapons, Officer Kim Da-eun, who had been promoted to captain. The ship was escorting a convoy of Alterian research vessels, carrying medical supplies to worlds still recovering from Zephyrian occupation. "Hard to believe it's only been half a year," said a familiar voice behind her. Soo-jin turned to see Park, Min-ho approaching. Her former communications officer now wore the uniform of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, with insignia showing his new rank as Director of Interspecies Communications. "Sometimes I feel like it's been a lifetime," Soo-jin replied. "Other times it feels like yesterday we were just one ship against impossible odds." Through the station's speakers came announcements in dozens of languages. Avaran pilots were arriving with supplies for refugee camps. Saurian engineers brought new shield technology to share with the Alliance. Alterian scientists carried research that could help heal radiation-damaged worlds. "The morning briefing is starting soon," Min-ho informed her. "Representatives from the Outer Rim colonies want to join the Alliance officially." Soo-jin nodded, but continued watching the ships outside. The UES Busan was docked nearby, its captain Han So-young overseeing repairs to a damaged crystalline vessel. The former engineer had proven to be an excellent ship commander, leading rescue missions to worlds the Zephyrians had abandoned. "Any word from the remaining Empire forces?" Soo-jin asked. "Admiral Vextar's remnant fleet was spotted near the Galactic Edge last week," Min-ho reported. "But they're running, not fighting. Intelligence suggests they're trying to reach unknown space beyond our maps." The 2 humans walked through the station's corridors, passing aliens from species that had never worked together before. A group of young Alterians was teaching Avaran children how to grow crystal gardens. Saurian mechanics worked alongside human engineers to improve ship designs. Former enemies shared meals and stories. They entered the main conference room where Captain Kim Da-eun was already seated at the round table. Her dark hair was shorter now, cut in military style, and her face showed the confidence of someone who had commanded her own ship through several successful missions. "Morning, Captain," she greeted Soo-jin with a smile. "The Seoul just finished escort duty to the Vega system. The reconstruction there is going faster than expected." Dr. Yoon Ji-woo entered from the medical wing, carrying a datapad filled with health reports. "The Galactic Health Initiative is working better than we hoped," she announced. "Human medical knowledge combined with Alterian healing crystals and Saurian surgical techniques has cut recovery times in half." Elder Quantara materialized at the table, his crystal form shimmering slightly. As the elected leader of the Alliance Council, he had helped write the charter that governed their new organization. "Friends," he began, "today we face a decision that will shape our future. The Outer Rim colonies wish to join us, but they bring troubling news." A holographic map appeared above the table, showing the galaxy's spiral arms. Most of the inner systems were now green, indicating Alliance membership or protection. But at the galaxy's edge, unknown regions remained dark. "What kind of news?" Soo-jin asked. A new voice answered from the doorway. Lieutenant Choi Woo-jin, now captain of the UES Daegu, entered the room with a grim expression. "The kind that means, 'Our work isn't finished, Captain.'" He activated his own datapad, and the holographic display changed to show long-range sensor readings. 3 days ago, our scouts detected massive energy signatures beyond the galactic rim. Something big is out there, and it's heading toward known space." Kim Da-eun leaned forward. "Zephyrian reinforcements." "We don't think so," Choi replied. "The energy patterns are completely different. This is something we've never seen before." Dr. Yoon Ji-woo studied the readings. "How long before they reach Alliance space?" "Best estimate? 6 months to a year." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. They had just finished liberating the galaxy from one threat, and now another was approaching. Elder, Quantara spoke first. The Alliance is still young. Many worlds are barely recovered from Zephyrian occupation. Are we ready for another war? Captain Sujin stood and walked to the viewport. Outside she could see hundreds of ships from dozens of worlds, all working together. Crews that had once been strangers were now friends. Technologies that had been secrets were now shared freely. 6 months ago we were one ship against 200, she said quietly. Today we have a fleet of thousands and allies across the galaxy. But is it enough? Asked Minho. Sujin turned back to her friends and colleagues. These people had followed her into an impossible battle and won. They had helped build something beautiful from the ashes of war. I don't know if we're strong enough yet, she admitted. But I know we're not the same galaxy that cowered before the Zephyrian Empire. We've learned that cooperation is stronger than conquest. We've learned that freedom is worth fighting for. Kim Da-yoon smiled. And we've learned that sometimes all it takes is someone willing to stand up and say no to bullies. Outside the station, more ships arrived every hour. The Alliance fleet grew stronger each day, not just in numbers but in unity. Whatever was coming from beyond the galactic rim would find a very different galaxy than the one the Zephyrians had. Terrorized, the age of fear was truly over. The age of freedom had begun, and it would not end easily.